The Myth of Normal, Trauma, Illness and Healing in a Toxic Culture by Gabor Mate. What do I think about this book? Now that's what I want to share with you today. Before I share what I think about this book, I want to make an interesting observation. You are not reading a book, you are reading a person. When you read a book, you're reading the mind of a person. So you may want to read a person who has authority to say what he is saying in his book. For example, if I write a book about leadership, who's going to read it? I don't think many people will read it because I do not have the authority, I do not have the credibility to write in that discipline. What if the President of the United States write a book about leadership? That's interesting. Perhaps many people will read that. Why? Because he has that background, he has that authority to write about leadership. That's why I think today's age has given us a gift, and that gift is our ability to kind of listen to our authors. If you jump on internet, YouTube, authors are talking about their books. Authors are granting interviews. They are granting so many interviews on so many platforms. They are delivering so much lectures about their book. It had not been this way before. Now it is. You get the chance to actually listen to your author. Before I got to read the hard copy of this book, I got the opportunity to listen to Gabor Mate talk on various platforms. So when I'm reading the book, I know where he is coming from. This is one thing people will tell you, those who know books, all right? When you ask them, what do I read? They would say, no, it's not about what you read. It's about who you read. So they would tell you, go and read this person, go and read this person, go and read that person, and you would understand that discipline because they have authority in that field. So it is not about you reading 1,000 books. It's about you reading the right books. And reading the right books mean reading the right people. So know whom you read, not just some fancy title. People could come out with so many fancy titles. It's not about that. Always go straight to the author of the book. Who is he? Where is he coming from? I have seen this. Many people do that. I know many people do that. Why? Because I used to do that. When I pick up a book, first, sometimes I even skip the author. I go right straight to introduction. Sometimes I don't even read the introduction. I jump straight to chapter 1 and I start reading chapter 1. That is wrong. The first thing you've got to do is to read about the author. Know the author, and then you know where he's coming from. And then you would be able to understand the background from which he is actually writing his book. So this is an interesting observation that I thought I might share with you before you jump onto your next book. So what do I think about this book? I have actually listened to the audiobook. I have listened to lectures on this book. I have listened to interviews and podcasts on this book, which means I have gotten so many different perspectives to the book because I have listened to people questioning the author about the book for him to give further clarifications and explanation to this book. Before I talk about what I think about the book, who is Gabor Mate anyway? Now, this was a guy who actually had a trauma. He was born during one of the most tumultuous era during the Nazi Germany. So he kind of had this first-hand traumatic experience as a little kid. His mother having abandoned him, that actually had effect on him even as an adult. So that had its toll on him. And he learned a lot and he researched mainly on trauma. And he's worked on some of the traumatic people. So he kind of has so many in-depth knowledge, experiential-wise and research-wise, that gave him the authority to actually speak about what he's talking about. And what I found interesting about the book is that, look, he's about to talk to you about trauma. And whenever we talk about trauma, we're talking about human brain. We're talking about some damage. We're talking about some injury that has actually affected the human brain. And usually we say it's because of certain experience. So basically, our understanding is an individual level. But what I did not expect was the way he took trauma to the different level. And the different level here is trauma as in gender, age, race, economy, politics, history, and all of that. He actually took trauma to all these levels. The way people behave, the way different race behave as compared to a different race, the way certain male gender behaves, the way female gender behave, and the primary nature of all these races and all this gender. So it's interesting how he actually took trauma to the different level. This kind of explains why certain things behave the way they behave. If you know the behavior of a person, then you know how he would react in response to a certain situation. So I love observation, and this book, he kind of explained so many things that I observed but could not lay my hand on the cause of those things. And there is one big question that he asked in this book, and it was all about Are we in normal times? What we consider to be normal, are they actually normal? What we consider to be normal in today's culture, in today's way of life, are they actually normal? Even though we have come to accept them, are they normal? Just because so many people has accepted a certain thing doesn't make it true, right? So what we have accepted to be normal, are they actually normal? There is another point he made in the book, which is very interesting. And it was he was talking to me directly, and he was like, the agony of nice people. Being a nice person could be a cause of some mental diseases. Being a nice person could make you prone to certain mental illness. And this is a statement he made in the book. If you are extremely nice, which means you would always have to suppress your desires, your wants, you would want to subject yourself to do what people want at the expense what you want, and at the end of it all, it's gonna come right back at you, and it's gonna cause you to be depressed in life. You don't kill yourself in the quest of being nice to people. Now, if you are nice to somebody, what about you being nice to yourself? If you're gonna sacrifice your health for someone else, perhaps that nicety is not nice at all, because you're not being nice to yourself. How can you then strike a balance between being nice to yourself and being nice to people? And that is when you have the ability to say no. As a matter of statistics and research, it's come to be known that those people who are prone to this illness are mostly nice people. And that is an interesting, a very scary statement to make. And I'm not saying it. He says he's not saying it. He says the research is saying it. So if a research is saying something, perhaps we need to give it a second thought and to give it a second look. Okay, so these are some of the things that he says about the book. He talks about how women are actually absorbers of society. This is an interesting chapter that blew my mind. Like by nature, women consider themselves as absorbers to society. In what sense? In a sense that they want to hold firm the fall and blame themselves for so many things before they blame it on other people, so that people keep falling on them, and then they just feel it is their responsibility to suck the hard fall of people and blame it on themselves. It's an interesting chapter that I read in the book, and it is worth looking at. It's very worth looking at. But there is one theme that has cut across the book. Where do depression and anxiety and trauma, where do they come from? And the quest to do that, if you have listened to Gabor Mate at all, you would know that he would like to trace all human situations and conditions to their childhood. So childhood becomes the primary concern of Gabor Mate. It is he kind of make the argument that all these trauma all this mental illness could be traced back to early childhood, to human childhood. He talked about the child having this primary concern of being secure. He talked about the need of a child to have physical connection with his parents, so that if he is denied that, he translates it into something quite insidious. He translates it into something quite dangerous, and he wouldn't have that security. He will be an insecure person. He will be injured as a little baby. Mind you, most of the ideas he shares in this book are not necessarily the mainstream ideas. So this would give you a different perspective. So what do I think about this book? I think it's an interesting book. I think it is worth checking out, because you might get a fresh ideas. You might get some thought-provoking revelations. It is something that is really worth considering if you want to understand human behavior, if you want to understand economic behavior, if you want to understand political behavior, if you want to understand racial behavior, the effect of race on human brain, physically, physiologically and psychologically. These are not some theoretical things he's talking about in this book. If you really want to understand the gender behavior, you really want to check out this book. It's an interesting book, and that's what I think about this book. All right, that's it for now. Thank you.